All right, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? How are you doing? I want to just make sure that our recording, it says recording pause, but if you're out there, if you're with me, this is Chance Rush. Hey everybody, how you doing? Webinar number 6, Chance Rush. I want to thank the Center for Native American Youth at the Aspen Institute for giving us this opportunity to present Tele-Native. Man, this is our 6th webinar. I'm Chance Rush. I'm your moderator today. And I'll tell you this, anybody out there listening that has heard this panel before, thank you guys for making each webinar stronger, stronger, and stronger. Today, it is so crazy, man. I've got a crazy lineup with you today of individuals who are just doing it, and we're going to talk about so much today. To everybody out there, obviously, we're having these webinars because it seems right now that the world has stopped, with COVID-19, the pandemic. I know you're at home quarantining, all that good stuff. And so we just want to encourage you guys to keep up the good fight. Things are going to get better for all of us. Play your part. Wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance. Don't go out if you don't have to. Anybody out there going through anything, we care about you. We love you. We're praying for you. I know things are going to get better. So with that being said, this is why we are pushing Tele-Native. We want you all to continue to, tune in next weekend. We have another great lineup. Speaking of lineup, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this time to turn it over to our panel as we get started. So let's start with we'll go ladies first, and whenever our guests can jump on, we'll do that. But Isabelle, let's start with you, and we'll do ladies first. There we go.
Miss J, my name is Isabelle Coronado. I'm a policy entrepreneur with the Next 100, as well as a youth advisory board member with the Center for Native American Youth.
Teresa?
Haslahale, Teresa Sheldon Seedsta, Tuwal Chadu Flalep. Hello, everyone. I'm Teresa Sheldon, Tulalip Tribe citizen, and with the DNC as the Native American Political Director. Thanks for having me.
All right, and my main man, Anthony.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Temez Pochel. I'm West Pacific First Nations Cree, Sichanga, Lakota, and Black, and I currently serve on the Center for Native Americans Youth Advisory Board as the Vice Chair.
All right. Well, thank you. And I know that Paulette Jordan will be joining us here in a little bit. And, before we get ready, before she introduces herself, we'll kind of go in and just get into like some general questioning here. Obviously, this week, our topic is decolonizing democracy. And I know it seems like that's everywhere to all of the to listeners back home. Tune in, man, text somebody, message somebody, tell them, this topic that we're talking about is very important because, even though that, we can go in a lot of different directions with this title, our panel today is going to give us some different perspectives, anywhere from, knowing our treaties, voting, having a voice, speaking up, get involved with the census. I mean, you name it, we're talking about it. Right now, Indian country is going through a lot, whether it's, reclaiming our land or letting people know that this has always been our land, to some changes that are taking place in Indian country, to taking a stand for something. This is exactly what we need to talk about this week. So with that being said, like I said, that word, decolonizing democracy. In your own terms, can each one of you explain what that title means to you? We'll go with Anthony.
Sure. So obviously, like we stated before, right? I think that means it can mean many different things for many different people. Also, depending on where you live, right? What tribal nation is in that area or what connection you have to the land. But I think decolonizing democracy to me, is being involved in a process that was created to keep us uninvolved, right? It's making sure that the people that we're electing into offices are aware of treaties in our area. Here in Chicago, we have two treaties that cover the Chicagoland area. That's the Treaty of Greenville and the Treaty of Chicago, right? And so making sure when we elect those peoples into office that they know those treaties and they know, Native people's treaty rights. But that's also making sure that we're voting, right? We're going out and we're voting and we're participating in our current democracy, right? And so that's making sure that, Native people have a voice in that. Historically, they don't want you to vote. And so when you don't go out and vote or when you don't participate, we're giving them what they want. People have, some people have reasons why they don't vote. And, it's important not to dismiss those because everyone's opinions and feelings are validated. I think that's part of being Indigenous, right, is making sure that we're all heard. Democracy, I think, is an Indigenous practice. And we can take what we currently have, this Western idea of democracy, and indigenize it and make it work for our own communities.
Wow. Thank you for that, Anthony. Thank you for those words. I do appreciate it. I know that we just had Paulette Jordan. I think she just now tuned in. Hey, Paulette, are you with us? How you doing? Maybe introduce yourself and we'll get rolling here. Okay. Oh, there you go, Paulette. How you doing there, Paulette? Are you on mute?
Oh,
Okay, there you go.
okay.
Well, okay. How are you doing?
Doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. So maybe you can introduce yourself to our listeners and explain to us what you think, your terms of decolonizing democracy.
My terms. Well, first of all, my name is Paulette Jordan. I'm born and raised on the Coeur d'Alene Reservation in northern Idaho, and it's really an honor to be here amongst all of you. Thanks so much for inviting me and doing this, and thank you, Chance. You're my brother for life. I've known you all along the way. Just super thankful that you're here and always supporting our youth in the best way possible. But I want to make sure that people understand just how incredibly important it is for all of you to participate, and this is part of that. Having conversations like this, whether we're talking about decolonizing democracy or just getting people on all levels of government, and our people from rural America, out in Indian country, a lot of our young people have that right to step up, not only just to participate by voting, but leading in this process, because more people need that it comes back to basically in every single room from business to politics, that very few people hear the Indigenous voice, which comes with a whole centuries, a list of values of greatness, in my opinion, because there are so many people who, the great leaders that we can look back upon, who have done so many powerful things, and they've done that with this formidable spirit. They've been unchallenged in so many ways because they did it with a good heart for their people. And I see that being lost in politics. I see that being lost in business, and in the world today that's hurting so much, which is why I see that we have a prime opportunity here to really discuss what are the next steps moving forward, because we want to make sure that all of our young people are prepared for these next steps, because these next levels that we're about to breach into, that's going to be amazing for not only this country by uniting both the left and the right, but uniting all who are economically suppressed, those who are challenged, in healthcare and education, in all walks of life. We're seeing that with the Black Lives Matter movement. So I'm really excited to have this conversation first and foremost. And again, thank you all for having me.
Good. Thank you for those words, Paula. We do appreciate it. We're going to hear from all y'all here in a little bit. Isabelle, decolonizing democracy.
So when I saw this question and I thought about it, I automatically went to the big decision that happened just a week ago, which is the Supreme Court decision saying that Muskogee Creek Nation is in fact a reservation, something we've always known. And being Muskogee Creek myself, I went in and read the brief and what those policies were saying. And while reading it, I just saw over and over how their tactics were to, one, assimilate us, and then two, to assimilate us by taking away Native land ownership. And so when I think about decolonizing democracy, I think about smashing down those racist policies that do those kinds of things to marginalized communities. And so that's something that we shouldn't be doing to marginalized communities. And by decolonizing democracy, we're opening up ways to have more equity, equality for people with different skin colors, economic status, or even gender identities.
Wow, thank you. We'll talk a little more about that here in a little bit. Teresa, decolonizing democracy.
Yeah, I'm over here like, woo, yes, get it. Absolutely. Agree with all the statements shared. I think for me, decolonizing democracy means showing up as my full self, like showing up as my full Indigenous self, who is not going to apologize for standing up and saying, as a political class of people with inherent rights, with treaty rights, with constitutional rights, with all of the every kind of right that we have, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm going to show up, I'm going to defend it, and I'm going to explain why everyone else should be on our side, because we are always on the right side of history and the right side of the law. You know, and so when we look at democracy, and just like Anthony said, so precise, was that's always been a way of our people doing. We've always sat down, we've always discussed, we've always debated back and forth on issues and came to a consensus and came to an understanding of respect and why we're doing something. And that's really what democracy is about, is being able to hear each other and listen to each other's answers and responses, and go forward. And it's so important now that we are using our full voice in whatever aspect that is, if it's social media, if it's policy writing, if it's on the streets, if it's protesting, if it's organizing, you know, making phone calls, emailing senators, running for political office, all of those, we don't have to be less than, right? We get to show up as our full, authentic, Native representation. And we don't have to try to downplay who we are any longer. And I think that's just the blessing of the people who've come before us and have allowed this, so that we can be the full selves. And I've never liked that analogy, we have one foot in two worlds. I say we are our full self in one world, and we're no longer going to apologize for that, right? So if we show up in our ribbon shirts and our ribbon skirts and our regalia, and if we show up in our hoodies and our t-shirts and our yoga pants, like, that's us, right? And so there's no one way to be. All of it is legit when we are true to who we are, ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thank you for that. You know, speaking of working together, I know that you know, prior to working for the DNC, you worked, you know, did outreach through Emily's List. That was a national Native American training to get and promote more Native American women into political positions and whatnot. I know it was a success. And why isn't, you know, with the success, shed some light on why it's important. And we're seeing it now with Paulette running for senator up in Idaho. You know, why is it more important, more and more, we need more of our Indian women to get into the political realm?
Well, Native representation matters, right? And so we see that with Congresswoman Holland and Congresswoman Davids, how invisible we really are. And when you have two Native women elected who are just powerhousing and making dynamic changes, and they're constantly saying, we are so proud and thankful to be the first, but we can't be the last. And we're putting the ladder down to bring other sisters to join us as well. And so Emily's List, we had a beautiful opportunity to work with them for over a year in creating a Native American Run to Win training program. And the whole intent is we have to extend that the same opportunities everyone else gets. We have to go out of our way to ensure Native people are receiving and having access. And so access is not, and we see that with broadband, just basic access isn't equal in Indian country. And so we have to work with creating space And so national organizations that are doing phenomenal work, if they are not including Native American as a piece to that, they're not fitting the full spectrum of who we are as Americans, right? And so half of our battles are constantly saying, excuse me, who's your Native person? Where is your Native media? Where is this? What's your inclusion? And so Emily's List started the program. It's not perfect. There's still a lot of work to do, but they're trying. And so that's a beautiful aspect that a lot of people aren't doing yet. And so you're seeing a huge need, though, to train Native candidates in how to run for a public political office. And there's a beautiful thing Kevin Killer and a group are doing, is creating advanced Native American political training. And they hope to roll that out in 2021. And Indians List used to do this. Indians List used to have a train the trainer, how to run for office. And also we need Native organizers. We need candidates, and we need Native organizers to help our candidates get elected. And so all of it's needed, and we need more of it, and we need more people to run. But when we ask our people to run, we, Indian country, have to provide support to them, and we have to get behind them and encourage them. And if that's positive Facebook messages, positive Twitter, positive, be a part of uplifting and supporting and financially donating $5, $10, $20 to our Native candidates, and buying their merchandise, buying their t-shirts, going and making phone calls for them. Like, we can't just leave it up to everyone else. But Indian country, we need to get more involved and more engaged as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you say that, as a political figure for us in Indian country, because you're right. We do have to support. We do have to get involved. We're seeing it right now, with, the level that you're on, the level that, Paulette is on, and just to see, these two here with us, Isabelle and Anthony, at young minds, and they're doing what they're doing, So my next question is for Isabelle. Isabelle, you moved to New York City to start working for Next 100. It's a political think tank. We're very proud of you. What is your priorities there, and how can Native youth get involved?
Yes, I moved all the way from Oklahoma to join a think tank in New York. It's been an incredible opportunity. At Next 100, I'm working on criminal justice reform, specifically in incarceration around Indigenous communities, because whether we know it or not, incarceration is a huge issue in Indian country. And I know this firsthand because of the work I was doing in Oklahoma with reentry with the tribal members all over Oklahoma. And in Oklahoma, we're one of the #1 mass incarcerators. And breaking that down even further, we're incarcerating Native women even further. And that's in the world. So just breaking down those numbers, like, we have a really big issue. And so taking that experience, and also my personal experience as having formerly incarcerated parents, I wanted to create opportunities for the next generation of children who have to grow up with an incarcerated parent, and working through those barriers, and also having the opportunities, because I know we're so much more than the problem and the issues. And then how Native youth can get involved. The #1 thing I say, it sounds easy, but it takes a lot of work too, is to share their stories. I just realized how powerful a personal narrative can be, especially when talking to elected officials and trying to get policy changes in your area. It's been incredibly beneficial, letting people know the issues, but also backing it up with real life experience.
Wow, you're right. And we gotta, our Native youth have to get involved. I mean, I know we can talk about voting, we can talk about, the census, we can talk about, supporting, but, our Native youth, even ones that aren't even old enough to vote, we've got to get involved, we've got to understand this. Speaking of getting involved, Anthony, I was talking to you earlier about you being everywhere. I was out in DC, he was there. I was out in Phoenix, he was there. I was up in someplace, he's always just showing up, and thank you for being involved. I know that you've civically been engaged for many years, and living in Chicago, and being a Native, how is it for urban Natives, and what's the landscape, when it comes to getting involved with voting, and how what's some challenges that could be with spreading the message out there for Native voting in urban settings?
Yeah, so one, Chicago is definitely just it's a different type of animal when it comes to making sure people are getting involved. Just the history there alone with making sure people are involved in a democratic process, right? In our democracy has just been a challenge just for all Chicagoans. I think one of like a big challenge that we have here in the city is as opposed to other Native communities, right? In the city, we're not all in one area. We're spread out and we all have different voting precincts. And so, a lot of the times we can't vote in blocks, right? So it's harder to get people that we want that will advance our agendas or our truths into office because we don't have that same political power, right? We are our community is made up of hundreds of different nations, which is a beautiful thing because as a Native youth, I'm able, I've been thankful enough. This is where my people are originally from, and so growing up on my ancestral territory, in a concrete jungle, I've been able to learn so much. But beyond that, I can learn Native elders' cultures in my community. So when I travel, I'm able to be respectful of that. But getting people to polls or getting people involved in the process is a very hard thing, right? We still have Native elders in our community that have never voted before in their lives. This past election, we actually got a couple to vote. It was their first time. They were in their 50s, and so those things are success stories. But it's important to note that the political power that tribal nations have is very different than the political power that urban natives have, right? And so it is, I believe that it is our job, living in urban areas. We obviously have a lot more access to resources, right? We have a lot more access to jobs. We have a lot more access to the internet. We have a lot more access to to a larger network of people, and so it is our job to play that supporting role when it comes to political power for tribal nations. Here in Illinois and some of the surrounding states, we don't have, there aren't any federally recognized tribes, right? And, for people watching, it's important to note that that's not to say that there weren't, natives here, right? I live in a state where one of my senators said, natives just got up and left, which is not true, right? And that's, it becomes problematic. And so making sure we have to educate them on those issues because they, in the end, they are our representation. And they, they do have to understand that, we're not living on our, on land that was, given to us, but we are still living on our own land. So you have an obligation to represent us as Native people still, and making sure that that message gets across. I didn't know how easy it was to, just call up your elected official and say, hey, I want to have a meeting with you about something that I'm working on, right? And so Native youth in our city have actually done that on a local level. And, in terms of like getting a garden, right? Getting the city to hand over land to our Native community to use as a cultural and education space. And in part that's due to policy because Native youth here are involved in that. And that's, something that at first can be very intimidating and very scary because you don't want to go into a room full of, politician or businessmen and then you get shut down, right? Obviously, those happen, but it's important that you get your voice heard and that you, no matter what, you're always speaking truth about yourself and to your people, because it's, in the end, like Isabelle said, those personal narratives of those personal stories are, can win over minds and they can change people's hearts. It's being able to sit down with Native elders and, talking with them. And saying, I know voting, isn't important to you. It's something that was used as a tool of oppression against you. But for me, the times have changed and voting for me is important, and this is why I want you to vote. And those help. Those one-on-ones help. And so that we're able to do that here in the city. And I think across the country in our own communities, because that's just something that has been instilled in us as a people. We always go to our elders or to our aunties to talk about something that kind of is bugging us or that we need help or guidance on. And I think a lot of we can kind of see that replicated on a national level, right? Like our aunties and our grandmas are stepping up to the plate, even on this call. Just 3 Native women in the area of policy, is amazing, because a couple years ago it would have just been men, and that's not okay. And now we see that this is being replicated on a national level. Our aunties are stepping up, and us as youth are able to go to them and say, hey, I want to do what you're doing in a couple of years. I need help, and I need a mentor. And that's what we have now going on, especially here in the city, right? Because, like I said, that political power we have is very, very low. And we don't have, in my own community and even in my state, I don't have any Native people that have ran for office or that are, in office. So I have to turn to people, like Paulette, or, like Congresswoman Davids, or like Congresswoman Holland, right? Those are my examples. And I'm fine with that, because, there are amazing examples to look at and replicate here in my hometown.
Thank you for those words. And you're right. And, the reason why I use the word challenge is because, it is a challenge for Indians to vote. It's a challenge for Natives to vote, and a lot of reasons why they don't want us to vote, and so especially sometimes in the urban areas, people of color do have to come together. And if there's anybody out here listening, like what Anthony was saying, there's elders in Chicago that can't get out to vote or know how to vote or whatever it may be. We do have to partner. We can't all stay in our own lanes. We all have to come together as minority people, be diverse, come together and be people of color, and push and promote it, And with that being said, I'm going to go over here to Paulette. Again, thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it. I'm proud of you, Paulette. I mean, I remember you as an athlete and a mom, and then you ran for governor, and it was very, very, very close. One of the closest in Idaho history, as well as, now you're running for senator, and things look really great for you. And so we're going to continue to pray for you and lift you up, your team, your campaign, and your outreach and everything that you're doing. That being said, what did you learn, running for governor, and, now running for senator? What's some things that you've learned, and what can you share, with Native youth?
Like Tony says, he really covered a lot of good stuff there. And I would say just honestly that we need to get more of our people to run for public office. And, I was doing that with my Idaho Voice. It's a nonprofit that I established here in our state because I want to see more young people talking about the environment and the rights of nature, and more young people talking about just simple civics matters, like creating balance in our power system, and taking money out of politics. Mm-hmm. But it's also clear for me that, I came from the reservation. I didn't run as a wealthy millionaire, and I went up against all these millionaires. And as I learned from my own experience on the front line, it's that even while the odds may still be stacked against us, there is a hunger out there in all of us for principled and moral leadership and the Indigenous worldview. I was getting people from all over the world, from Berlin to France, and of course they were all rooting for us. They're rooting for me to be able to run in these positions, to be the voice for Indian country. And I was really humbled by that, because what they're telling me is that they are starving for this Indigenous worldview, this perspective that we are missing in this country, because most people from local city boards to our city council to school boards and local offices to governor's races and Senate races, these folks have never seen a voice like ours. They've never seen this Indigenous worldview and, what it's like to be the ambassador of your land, or to seek balance in everything that we do. And being able to talk about, these principles and apply them, into politics or into business, and to take care of our community, and having respect for everything. All of these principles are missing. The value system is missing. And so I'm just seeing this all across the world, and know that here in our country, we have a prime opportunity, because I'm hearing from other Indigenous communities around the world, and they're saying that we here in the United States, we are positioned to do a whole lot more with the privilege that they see that we have. We have tribal treaty rights, we have sovereign powers and immunity, and we are able to now rise up once we start acknowledging that power from within, that we are all connected in this most powerful way. But I see that this is what I've learned, and I hope that other young people will see that no matter what you think is up against you, you can do it. And you have everything you need. It's like Tony, he has everything he needs. And Isabelle, who's doing Next 100, she has everything she needs. In fact, when she gets to these next steps, we're all going to be there, because we have all been fighting, and I was thankful that I had the Susan Harjos and the Wilma Mankillers and my grandmother, Lucy Covington. I get all these great leaders who have helped me be here to where I am, including my own mother. And I'm going to be the same way by paying it forward to other young people. But that's how we're going to make our way up and ensure that our bench, with other young leaders will be ready, because it's all about preparation and staying involved. And just like Anthony, he's staying involved and invested. But you got to do that. And it starts now. There's no time to waste. And the last thing I'll say is just that while we do need more female and Indigenous people in office, it's really just a matter of, like Teresa also stated, being part of organizing, because our folks have to understand the system to work within it. And then we can restructure it the way it fits for everybody, because it should be more egalitarian, where men and women are truly equal. Rights of nature should be at the table. Nature herself should be at the table. And it's funny, we have to fight for her rights, but here we are, because we're all suppressed. But that's what I want to make sure that Indigenous peoples and young people, and most especially, understand is we are here to be ambassadors of peace. And whether it's in politics or in the social challenges that we are doing, or as local organizers and activists, understanding that we are here first and foremost as ambassadors of peace to bring more peace to this world is essentially, to me, really best to understand at our core.
Wow. Thank you for those words. And you talked about your grandma, and you talked about, your mom. A lot of people don't know this. You don't even know this, Paul. This is crazy. I'm gonna tell you something for the first time. I cannot believe that I watched Michael Jordan play live before. And I'm gonna tell you something. I believe I was at a tournament in Washington or Portland, and I watched Brooker and Buck Jones over in Pendleton, I believe. And I watched the Dakota Warriors. And no lie, when I was a little bitty guy, I watched your dad, Michael Jordan, play before. So that's my story of watching Michael Jordan play live. So thank you for that.
Shout out, yeah.
Yeah, great. I didn't think that you even probably knew that. That I was a little bitty guy. I don't know. We were stuck going to a powwow or something like that, but we stopped off and watched the basketball tournament. So, and thank you both for the good words that you have for our young ones. Real quick before, I know Teresa, you got to take off here in a second, but Isabelle, I'm gonna come over here to you real quick. I know that you've been working in policy in a lot of different capacities, including a briefing for Congresswoman Presley. Can you share with us about that experience and what has come from it?
Yeah, so like I said, the power of story. Representative Ayanna Presley heard my story on a panel I was doing, and she reached out to me, and I guess it touched her because she had that same shared experience where she had a father that was incarcerated for many years of her childhood. And just exchanging those words, she then saw the work I was doing and reached out to me to be part of her press rollout, as well as give input to her the Justice Guaranteed resolution, where she just totally wants to overhaul our criminal injustice system, and by bringing in people who are impacted by the criminal justice system, because something she overly says is people closest to the power are closer to the solution. And I think just hearing a leader like that really has inspired me. So when we did that rollout, it included so many different things in our criminal justice that we just want to change, like decriminalizing sex work, abolishing the death penalty, making sure that women of color and men of color are not being overpopulated in the prison system, making sure the children are taken care of, the caregivers. I mean, this whole resolution is a true overhaul to what she wants to do. So far, she has put out some bills to make those changes, but they have just stayed in the House so far because we just have a tricky Congress right now. Per se. But something else that really came out of it are other people are starting to see it. And something like Representative Holland is doing a demilitarize the police, which fits in with that. And I was able to give input on that as well, where we want to demilitarize the local, state, tribal, and federal police and invest in our communities. And so that's what's come out of it so far. I'm very grateful and looking forward to the future of the amazing things like the congresswomen are doing right now.
And amazing things that you're going to do, you know, and I know your mom would be very proud of you. And wow, I'm so honored to know you guys. Teresa, you worked in governmental affairs as a policy analyst for 7 years prior to being elected to the Tele-Native Board of Directors, where you served 2 terms. Can you share with us your experience on both the tribal and government levels?
I just want to say Isabelle's inspiring. So I think that's so impressive, the work she's doing, right? You know, honestly, I had no idea there was a world of a policy. I didn't know when I went to college, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted, or I literally was in my 3rd year, like I have no idea what's going to happen. When I graduated from Western Washington University with my BA, I was working at the casino as a floor supervisor in table games. And so I'm a former craps dealer, and I like to say that craps has prepared me for being able to work in politics, because it's all about relationships and personalities, right? And being able to work through things. But I was really angry because I didn't know, and I grew up on the reservation, so I didn't know things like that we're a political class of people. I didn't know about the 1924 Indian Citizenship Act. I didn't know why we had no tax, right? I just knew I was sovereign. I didn't pay sales tax on my reservation, and I could walk down the middle of the street on the res if I wanted, because I was sovereign, right? So I didn't know the reasons for the things we had. And I also didn't know about boarding school. I didn't know about the federal policies that put my grandfather into work in the city and creating that urban way that was actual federal policy of getting natives off the reservation and removing them from their place, right? And so there was just all of these things when I learned in college why we are what we are, and that there's 200 years of federal law and policy that has dictated our lives, to motherhood of Native women, taking away motherhood, you know, sterilization, like all these things. I was like, why aren't we talking about this? So when I got into governmental affairs and realized there's this whole world of policy, and like, this is where it happens, that you can actually write change. You can write policy papers and create change and create momentum and demand your rights are upheld, and demand that our people are treated humanely and justly. And I was just like, how come nobody's told us? Why am I 23 just learning this, you know? And from then on, I've just been like, we have to talk to our young people about this at a much younger age. Federal Indian policy should be taught in 6th grade, you know, to our children. Tribes, we should be taking it upon ourselves to be teaching Indian civics, so that we can understand and be powerful, and recognizing that's what AIM was. AIM was powerful in our treaty rights and being able to debate, being able to articulate our rights and why we're fighting and why we're doing what we're doing. And so the biggest thing for me was that it's there and it's available, right? And so there's so many different levels. of being policy, of doing policy work, of being elected. Like there isn't one way. There isn't you have to go to college, you have to do this, and you have to do that. It's so broad and open, you know, that it's really about the passion that you have in your heart. And I had no idea I was such a nerd until I started getting into federal policy. And then I was like, oh, this is my jam. This is my home, you know, and being able to make change. And so I just want to advocate to anyone who doesn't know what they want to do and doesn't know, it's totally okay. Like keep trying to figure it out, keep making momentum. And my 3-year-old nephew is in the background now. So, but just keep going. And I was really it was just me. I didn't have a bunch of people who thought like me. I felt really alone, and I felt really not with a place, right? Trying to figure out what my purpose was. And so then you internalize that, right? Going, where's other people like me? And it wasn't until I went to Affiliate Tribes and Northwest Indians Conference and NCAI, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's thousands of us who are super nerdy and want to make change and want to do that. But on my reservation, I didn't see it. So I didn't know it was happening. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think national organizations being able to reach out to our youth at a younger age and getting them more engaged and having amazing ambassadors makes a huge difference for all of us in Indian country. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so thankful for the Center of Native American Youth and the work they're doing, because it matters. And our young people deserve a platform, and they deserve the microphone because they have a lot to say, and the leadership, they deserve it. And so step up and keep doing an amazing job because our Native youth are really leading us already.
Mm-hmm. And first of all, you got a really good looking nephew there. Second of all, thank you for those words. And honestly, Teresa, just thank you for all the work that you do. I know that we did an event, you know, not too long ago with the DNC, and we're grateful that you're using your microphone, you know, because it's you're speaking up for us, you know, in places that a lot of our Native youth don't think that they can speak up at. I like what Anthony said about, you know, go talk to your representative, and they'll make time. And you know, we do have to get involved. You know, I know that you have to leave here in a minute. Before I let you go, what are some encouraging words that you have for our Native youth about voting, and you know, whatever else is on your heart?
I think Anthony said it perfect, is that we're purposely left out, right? We're purposely meant to feel like we don't belong. Anthony too. Your dad is Anthony. And we're purposely meant to be disregarded. Hey, you've got to be respectful, okay? And that's intentional. It's intentional. We don't feel a part of a system that was created from us, right? They took the 3 government branches from our people, and then they just screwed it all up by excluding women. And so it's taken us like 100+ years to get back to some kind of little bit of balance. But know it's all intentional. Know that you're supposed to feel separate and isolated and not engaged, because they are the ones who are benefiting. The Trumps of the world benefit from us not being engaged. And so the white nationalists, the neo-Nazis, all of the anti, you know, who we are, benefit from us not being engaged. The prison pipeline, the school systems that are the systemic racism that they are indoctrinating in curriculum is absolutely impacting us. And so when we look at statistics of education, and our Native children are graduating at a 45%, it's intentional. That's on purpose, because the power of a strong, brilliant Native person, they're afraid of us, right? Mm-hmm. And so the more empowered we get, the more they come at us. And so please don't take the right to vote as who cares, it's not good enough. And believe me, if your candidate of choice doesn't have a platform you like, contact them, email them, and say, where's your Native platform? Where's your Native policies? Where are they? And if it's a mayor, county commissioner, PUD elected official, judge, like whoever it is, ask them, where is your Native portfolio? And even if there's not tribes, like in Chicago, there's a huge amount of urban Natives. How will you address the urban Native population in your area? And don't think you're ever not in the right place to do that, because we need you to do that. We need you to call out candidates and say, where's your inclusion of Native American issues? And then if they do put one out and it's not very good, you can say, here, let me help you spell it out correctly, right? And so, because it's never end all, we always can educate and we can always change. Policy is meant to be changed. Policy is not law. So you put out a bad policy, you change it, you correct it, and that's activism and that's engagement. And all of us can do that. You don't have to be a lawyer or a fancy title. You can be a regular tribal citizen creating ginormous change by challenging the status quo. And so we appreciate that.
Wow. Hey, Teresa, thank you very, very much. I know that, you probably have to run here in a little bit. We want you to stay on the webinar, as long as you can, but thank you for your words today. Thank you for your input and, just your outreach. We're doing some great things, and, just keep on keeping on. You're babysitting and the world at the same time, man. We're grateful for that. I'm going to move over here to Anthony. You served in an elected office as an elected official with the Center for Native American Youth Advisory Board. How have you and how will you use this platform in civic engagement?
Yeah, so I think it's, we're involved in like these little mini democracies, of our own. So even for CNAY sitting on the Youth Advisory Board, and then for Unity being elected as the Midwest representative, right? Those are two offices where I was elected by my peers. And it's definitely something it's a very humbling experience, because, in those positions, you work with people, and those people become your family, right? They become your second family. And just like your first family, there's arguments, there's debates, there's figuring out different ways to work through issues, but most importantly is using that position. If you're in one of those elected positions, is using that to not uplift your own voice, but to uplift other people's voices, right? It's important to, you got elected for a reason, right? And so, make sure that you're following through on those reasons, but that you're able to open yourself up to being held accountable. And so, if there's something that I'm not doing that I said I would do, or that one of my fellow youth don't think that I'm doing correctly, or that they think I can improve upon, it's using that as a teaching experience and a learning experience for all parties involved, to make it okay and to normalize holding people you elect into office accountable, right? And so, beyond that, like I said, uplifting those youth voices, learning accountability processes, but also, this is, it's on a little smaller scale, so we're able to, reach out to people, and we're able to get a feel for our own, our own leading styles, right? And what works for us, what doesn't work for us. But these positions, I would say, are just the beginning of what's yet to come from Native youth, and from myself, right? In the future, it is my goal to go into policymaking and policy creation, and to go in those positions and to be a member of Congress, right? To make sure that never again will youth in my community feel like their voice isn't being heard. And so, if that is, means being that doorstop to make sure that people can slide through and get a seat at that table, then I am more than happy to do that, because it's something that, that's one of the things that I enjoy doing, right? Like Teresa said, there are a bunch of nerds. I am one of those nerds when it comes to policy and in terms of like getting people involved. You know, it's just something that fascinates me, and that I think it's really important that we get our voices heard. And the positions we're in now, like I said, is just the beginning to use to learn for ourselves, but to learn for our peers.
Wow. Thank you for that. And I'm excited about you doing some policy making. Honestly, Anthony, just, knowing you, over the years, getting to know you. I mean, it hasn't been that long, but I see you going in that direction. I appreciate it, man. I really do. And I also like how you roll your jeans up and wear your boat shoes. That was kind of cool. You made me want to do that when I got back home, man. Don't think I didn't. I didn't notice that. Hey, Paulette, the last question's for you. You won a lot of voters over, with the slogan of rural America needs representation. How can we get adequate and proper representation, and how would that be in the tribe's best interests?
Rural America gets left out of the conversations more often than not. And just like tribal peoples, we're often not at the table. Yet we have a lot to offer when it comes to, our experience in ag tech or land development, or just, caring for the land, period. And we are largely agricultural in rural America. I grew up on my family farmlands. In fact, my grandparents were farmers and ranchers on both sides. But people need to come to understand that public health starts with our connection to our land and the food and water sources we rely on. We learned from Standing Rock how important it is to protect water. We have all of our ceremonies around protection and honoring our relationship with water and all of our resources. And yet, here we are in rural America, where we're, again, not either at the table or in these rooms speaking to these issues. And so I knew that if we could share this message and move it to the forefront of America, this will help change or shift the culture and even our economy. But these are all ways to address all the issues that people are talking about. Even now that we're dealing with COVID, it's going to be more important than ever to just discuss the nutrients that are in your body, because this is a novel virus. That means that anyone and everyone is susceptible. There's no one that is immune. And so the best thing that you can do to fight back is essentially to get your exercise on, to eat right, make sure you're getting all the right nutrients. And now we're seeing even the ag community struggle and because of the politics and the climate crisis that we're in. So there's new conversations that are sprouting from this in rural America, and that's food sovereignty and of course food nutrition. So we definitely have a role to play, but I think more voices from rural America are going to rise up now as we're challenging both parties and the country at large when it comes down to these conversations that are wholly important, from healthcare to education to how those folks who are economically suppressed in these communities all across the country. We have a financial crisis that we're dealing with far too many people who are unemployed and haven't received unemployment checks. COVID relief is not hitting everybody. And of course, that includes tribal peoples. So it's an issue that matters to me most, and coming in through the DNC and even being, more importantly, a nonpartisan candidate, being Indigenous, because our people are nonpartisan. We're just about putting the people first, and that worldview, that whole voice of whether it's rural America or being Indigenous, those two collide and they intersect in so many ways. But that's to me what's most valuable and what I offer in my own campaign for U.S. Senate, because this is the kind of leadership that I want to promote in the U.S. Congress. But this is what I think the world needs to hear as well, because we do have the keys. We have all the keys to help not only connect people, but to connect everything and everyone to nature and to the resources by and large that we rely upon.
Yeah. And, I'm going to stay here with you. I'm going to have a question. This last question is for all of us. I'm going to stay here with you. What are some encouraging words, Paulette, that you can encourage our Native youth to be excited about getting out and voting? Because, if you're just now tuning in, listeners, Paulette Jordan is running for a senator up in the great state of Idaho, and looks good, looks promising. But for all of our panelists here, what is some encouraging words that you have for our Native youth about getting excited to vote? Paulette?
I would say to everyone to find your passion. What moves you when you get up every morning? What is it that excites you? I heard from Isabelle what excites her, you know, and that made me excited. And I heard from Tony what excites him. That makes me excited because I get inspired by young people like yourselves who are, finding reasons to engage and stay connected because you're getting younger and younger. And like Teresa Sheldon, who is, our sister from Tele-Native, has said, we sometimes we have our own points in our timeline where we come to acknowledging ourselves or recognizing where we're at and what really truly moves us. And maybe hers came after college and she moved back to the reservation, but we all come to that point at some point in time. And I want to just let young people know on this call or in this video that one of the things that you have to do is put yourself in the most vulnerable position that you can possibly do. And if that's to run for office or to speak up at an event or to volunteer your time, just to expose yourself and be open about these things, you will find that there are more opportunities out there waiting for you to lead or just to be a part of these conversations. And I implore every single one of us to do that because more of our people from the Indigenous community must be heard from. We have to be part of all these conversations. And I think that's truly how we start to influence the world and the culture to get back into this right shift, but back into balance the way it should be.
Wow, powerful words. Thank you. Isabelle, how about you? How can we, and some encouraging words to get our youth excited to get out and vote?
So a saying like I keep having ingrained in my head, and I just want to ingrain it in other youth's head, is that if your vote wasn't important, they wouldn't be trying to take it away. And I'm going to give that credit to Stacey Abrams because that's who I heard it from. But exactly that, like our vote is so incredibly important. And the barriers, yes, we've talked about the barriers Native people have, and that's unacceptable, but we have to continue having that voice because it's worth it in the long run, to make our votes matter, not only on our always on our local, tribal, and presidents. Those are all important matters, and for Native youth to make sure that they have that voice in the running. But I also want to encourage the Native youth who might have criminal records or have that extra barrier to voting. I know many states make it harder for people with felonies or any kind of conviction to vote. And I just want to say, like, make sure you continue to make your voice heard, and call your representatives and tell them what matters to you and volunteer and make those phone calls. Because yes, I know the barrier to voting is difficult, but it still matters. And I just want to say, like, my vote, like I'm always thinking about the vulnerable communities, like people with criminal records or, our undocumented families. We just have to continually thinking about others as well as what matters to us.
Wow. Thank you for that. Anthony, close us out.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, we're in a time where, I would encourage everyone, youth, aunties, uncles, grandparents, to practice accountability. Each accountability is something that I believe is an Indigenous practice as well, and we should be able to apply that to our elected officials and to people trying to get into those positions. Hold them accountable to their word. Like Teresa said, reach out to them if they don't have, a Native agenda. Encourage them to get one. And if it's not a good one, encourage them to change it and reach out to Native communities and hold them accountable to that, right? Accountability is one of the strongest practices that I think, any person can have, because you're calling something out that, has caused harm or will cause harm, and you're preventing that, right? Accountability is a process that will, stop these generations of trauma impacting Native communities, right? Accountability is something that is scary. It's scary to people who are in positions of power right now because they know, if they're held accountable, half of the things that they said they were going to do or will do haven't been done or haven't been completed, right? And so, but beyond that, make sure you're holding yourself accountable. If you say you're going to go out and vote, on voting day, make sure you make a plan to go vote. That is an effective way to make sure that you're accountable to your word, right? Hold your friends, your family accountable, make sure they go out and vote, make sure that they're as involved as you are in the process, because, like I said before, you're not wanted in to be involved in this process, right? And so, it's important to get out there and, like John Lewis said, cause some good trouble, right? Cause some trouble that, is going to make people mad. And when you make people mad, more than likely you're doing something right, because people don't like that. And I think as Native youth, we're constantly making people mad, but for all the good reasons, because we're fighting for the land, we're fighting for our culture, we're fighting for our language, we're fighting to make sure that our people agenda is heard. And so, I think no matter what, even if you're scared to, make sure that you're as vocal as possible as well, because it can be very scary. Even doing things like this for myself, I still get all nervous and butterflies in my stomach before I go on and while I'm on. But I know that it's something important that we have to keep doing, and we have to keep pushing for. So I would encourage you to do the same, because there will come a time where I will age out of my youth, and I will go into positions where I will need to mentor youth. And with the times we're in now, everything's constantly changing, and that I fully expect that when I'm older, that I am held accountable even now. So it's best to practice that, at the polls, in your homes, and in democracy.
Wow. Hey, man, I agree with everything except for aging out of your youth. I'm not ever going to age out of my youth, man. I'm always going to be 22. I mean, I'm always going to be 20 for the whatever time, 27 time, doesn't matter. But
I thought you were 27, 25.
yeah, 27 for the 19th time. 27 for the 19th time.
One thing, Chance, that I forgot, and part of holding each other accountable, we can make sure that we're doing the survey that CNAY is partnering with other organizations. So make sure that we're doing that. You can find that on their website, because that is a way to hold yourself accountable, commit to doing the survey. And, you can be entered in some raffles too.
There you go. Okay, great. I like that. Don't forget to check on that survey. Hey, Isabelle, Anthony, future Senator Jordan, we want to thank you guys for thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to be part of our panel. This is our 6th webinar here at Center for Native American Youth at the Aspen Institute, Tele-Native. Join us next Wednesday. Man, we have a part 2. Music is medicine, I believe, a phenomenal lineup, one that you don't want to miss. You want to come right back here on this Facebook page. Man, it's going to be a great concert. It truly is an honor wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. Just know that we love you. We care about you. You're doing some wonderful things out there. Don't let up. Anytime you want to do something good, the opposition is always going to be there. Thank you for joining us on Decolonizing Democracy. I'm Chance Rush, your moderator. Thank you, panel. Again, love you all. And you guys have a blessed day.
All right. Thanks, Chance.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Guys.